Good evening, everyone. Welcome to What's Your Brew. I'm Talal Marika, your host for today. We're with a special guest, Mr. Yasas Hewage. He's a social entrepreneur creating more than businesses. He's creating an impact with unfiltered stories, bold ideas, and a knack for making change. Today we have with us Mr. Yasas Hewage. Thank you for being with us here today.
Thank you for having me.
Mr. Yasas, you once said that passion is more important than skill. So during your journey as a social entrepreneur, have you ever regretted following passion or practicality?
Talal, I'm not really sure whether I actually said the same thing. Without skill, with passion, you can't jump off a plane. Okay, you need your parachute and landing skills, right? So I'm a big believer you really practice your skill set. But if you ask the question, what is passion? Passion is the combination of what you love to do and what you're good at. Otherwise, it's a hobby. So, example, in my case, as a young banker, I had to go and do presentations to very senior people. I initially didn't like it because I was very uncomfortable. So, it was not even a thing I love to do initially. But when you build your skill set, what happens is you start getting good at it. Sometimes when you get good at things, you also start falling in love with it. So passion is the combination of what you love to do and what you're good at. So I truly believe if you don't have both of that combination together, it's not going to really work. So yeah, that's just one line of thought for you.
During your time as towards becoming the leader you are today, through your failures, did it change what true leadership meant to you?
Did failures?
Did failures change the way you saw what true leadership is?
I mean, not a life, right? It depends on what you call a failure. One is the society will call failures. At an early stage in your life, you won't have control over it. So somebody might say because you got only 50 marks in exams, you're a failure. Now, my father, being somebody who understood education, took that pressure out of me. I was never judged on my exam results. Just I was free to play and enjoy life. So I didn't have some of the usual social pressures of failure. But if you ask in my sports life, in my career, you don't win everything. And each one of those moments will help you to figure out better learning. So failures will always be a better medicine sometimes because our victories you tend to skim over. So that's something that has taught me a lot. And once I remember as a leader of my baseball team, I had absolute winning team. We built a team from scratch to be a national champion team. And when you become that level of high performance, you also become a bit arrogant. Confidence also build a bit of cockiness in you. And then you take certain decisions as a leader. I ensured one team member was dropped because I thought he was selfish and he was not going to be a team player. But after 1.5 years of getting to know him outside of the sport, I got to know I was wrong. So some of those lessons are etched in your bloodstream, and you learn to not make those mistakes of judging people. So as a leader, you will learn a lot from your failures. It's not fun to fail, but then you grow out to be a better person. I can give countless examples. So I believe in failure as a good teacher.
What do you think on when it comes to failures determining what you see true leadership as?
It's like this, Talal, failure is part and parcel. I mean, even if you ride a bicycle at a point, you're going to fall, right? But there is a thing about what society calls failures. The traditional failures of exams and career, there are things that people will say, he didn't get the job, he failed. So some of those things can be really daunting on people. So luckily, as a young kid growing up, my father gave me a lot of freedom not to be judged by exam results. He was educationist. He understood that learning is not just going to school and by writing things and passing or failing. So as a result, I didn't have that challenge of being called a failure for. In fact, I failed my A-levels. And then I went on to set up 3 study centers for CIM, UK, largest in this part of the world, right up on. So if somebody called me failure at that time, I would have never, So, but if you have a reflective mind, you're going to learn a lot from failure. But you need to really take a step back and see what really happened. And if you take enough examples in school, in my baseball career, I set up a team that was a national champion team, and you are like the captain, vice captain. Natural ego, right? And confidence also, it's a crazy thing. And I used to like take decisions even without asking my coach sometimes. I once let go one of my colleagues who I thought was a bit selfish, and I felt he should not be in the team. It was my pure judgment. And I went and I did everything I had to do to see that he would not make it. And to realize after a year and a half associating him as a prefect, I made a mistake. He's generally a guy who behaves like that. And that's not who he is. Right? So you make mistakes, you fail, and then you take a step back, and it's the best learner. It's the best teacher. So yeah, it has really shaped me in who I am today.
So you say making a judgment call, like what just the story you shared with us regarding how when you shared parenting when he was a prefect, you realized you made a wrong judgment call.
Yeah.
You say prior thinking or prior analyzation before making a judgment call on a person matters.
Yes, but if you don't do that, if you don't bump your head to that wall,
You'll never know.
however, yeah, like somebody advised you, don't do that. That's from their experience. So sometimes even as parents, leaders, managers, we have to let some of our teams to go and bump their head by themselves and come back, so you can coach them better. So we had a little experience like that today. See, this will never happen unless we had that chat. And you come out of this, I know you're reflecting now. You're going to think about this tonight and say, hey, how would I do this the next time? And that's your growth. So we sometimes you have to consciously plan for failure. See, when I did the first 24-hour race, I put a t-shirt saying 24 hours, not knowing whether I can fish in 24 hours. The truth is, I took 26 hours. So in other words, I'm a failure. So what happened? I learned so much about riding a bike from the bottom of the top of the country. And today it became an international race, and the current record is 19 hours, not even 24. And the first woman rider was also broken. So if I looked at that as a failure, I would have gone, oh, I tried 24 hours. No, I learned so much out of that. But knowingly that you're not skilled, knowingly that you don't know how to fly a plane, taking a group of people along a ride and then coming back and saying sorry, that's not the option. People fail for lack of preparedness, not knowing what they're getting into, hasn't read the weather report. So you can't just take, I'm going to try things out and everybody should help me learn type of crap. Won't work if you're playing with lives of humans and taking companies into their careers, people depend. So it's not like this typical startup mindset of kids that do business for the mother's money. Come and try things. Oh, I tried that, it didn't work. I am now into this. Yeah, I can do that because somebody's paying your bills. But if you are employing 100 people or 5 people, you have to be a lot more conscious about some decisions you take. It's not a get out of free card to say failures will teach you, so I'll try anything. But if you consciously done your piece and you had a brutal failure, I mean, if you're reflecting mind, it will be your greatest teacher for you.
In Sri Lanka, as we all know, being stabilized is ideal. Right? The fact that being stabilized or being sustained, where you're safe, is something that people say is the best thing out there. But you risk your reputation as an entrepreneur to go ahead knowing that there is no stability here, but there are high chances you could lose and win. So how did you enter that?
I mean, yeah, at a point in life you realize, I mean, it's a level of maturity and how reflective you are in your growth, right? That the reality of life is this chair is not stable. I mean, you realize it. I didn't really do a audit to see whether this was made by the right guy. This might just break in half now and I'll be in hospital. It can happen. Or this building, God knows who made this. So this fallacy of things are stable is until the thing fall on your head from God knows Uranus or Mars, right? So we live in this little bubble and you realize, man, this is just a moment. This might be the last question when I'm going to have in this room, or there's a tomorrow. So, I mean, I'm talking philosophy, but I mean, being a country that is, incubated in Buddhism, very few people have understood the reality of life. So, stability is just the moment. So, permanency is an irrelevant concept. You get it at a point in life, then decisions becomes easy. What you want to do. So, I was at a fairly good position in a bank after putting 17 years of my life. So if I wanted to continue, I could have continued. But what if that bank crashed? So you get it, right?
So yeah, once again, we're going back to the fact that you consciously plan yourself knowing that there's a high chance that failure could appear, but you strive for the right thing.
So what I'm saying is the reality is your certainty is for the moment. I mean, tonight what I'm going to be diagnosed with, I don't know tonight. So it's not to say don't have long-term thinking and don't be responsible, but then you're also very realistic. So that's one sense of mindset. But then when you ask the question, did I risk a lot by leaving my bank job? By the time I left my bank job, I was a chartered marketer, fellow of CIA. So I could say I'm an expert in marketing. I've got 17 years of sales and sales training and coaching and building sales teams. I could ride a bicycle around the country. So you have confidence that takes you to the start line of races that others would feel risky. If I did not know how to sell and market and then came out of my bank life and said, now I want to take a bicycle and build a business out of it, well, that's a massive risk. By the time I came out of the bank, I've studied cycling. I'm a biomechanics specialist in cycling, certified from Retro USA as a passion project while being in the bank. I've read every book that is relevant to be read about marketing. I've been in sales for 17 years, built sales teams for multiple businesses in the banks. So that gives you the confidence to play for tonight or tomorrow. I mean, the best barista in this place, if tomorrow this coffee shop is not there, he will step out and walk into any coffee shop in anywhere in the world and will be start at $15 an hour. That's confidence, coming out of competence and coming out of C4 connections built over years. And also if you have a little bit of cash for 6 months, most crisis goes away, including COVID. So if you have cash, connections, and competence, that accounts to the C for confidence. You can write this down.
This is actually a really valuable lesson, especially to have people like myself.
Yeah.
Which leads me to my next question.
There's another C. Every connection you deal with, you will have to give C for credibility. So you met my friend Taina. I met him how long ago. But our interaction taking photographs, we are not connected on a daily basis, singing happy birthday and all. But credibility is built. He knows what I can do and I know what he can. Just being having connections, say hi, say visiting cards. No. Credibility is built through interactions.
Okay.
So when you have that built in your life, when a tsunami hits, if you are survive tomorrow, you can walk out, man, and say, I'm ready to roll. So, asking you a question, I honestly didn't have risk. What risk? I went out and took my competence and I started something and knowing things.
4 C's.
There's another C.
There are 5 C's.
There are a lot of C's, I'll give you one more. By that time, I also built creditworthiness with my banks. So which means even if I run out of cash, I can walk to a bank and say, I want to borrow and they'll lend. So now you're a young gentleman. Over the next couple of years, you should also build creditworthiness with your banks. It's like building a relationship. And when you really want something, they'll say, okay, we'll give you the loan. You can't just walk to the bank and say, I have a mar idea, I'm an entrepreneur. Oh, help me. Come on, man. Come on, visa. Knowing
Those are safety guarantees.
yeah. If you're competent, if you're credible, actually even the banks will relook at your discussion. This is what we were having a chat before, right? Why startups struggle. They think just because you have a fancy idea and a proposal, the world will come to you. I mean, there are some parts of the world who will put some seed funds to have some fun with and see if up in 3 works. But you can't expect a bank to do that. So this game you want to play, you have to build it gradually, block by block. And when you have that, you have a lot of. So I used that and I got out. Yeah, so now also I've taken a totally different move. I'm dedicating my time working for the government at almost no pay, very small amount, but I can afford it because if I want to earn some money, I have the confidence because of the C's that I'll start when I run out a bit low in cash or something like that.
So out of the 100 C's, these are the most 5 valuable C's.
No, there isn't 100, there's about 6, 7, but I gave you about 5 of them. So competence, connections, cash, credit worthiness, and credibility with interactions with people. Like be present, be punctual, I will do it and you do it. And they know this guy will deliver, will be there. So you don't have to worry, call, are you coming, what happened, will you be there? No, you know, it's 6 o'clock, either he's dead, or he'll be here, or he'll call me, or he'll somebody and say, Mazan, I can't come to. This guy won't let you down. So that's the level you need to operate over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Then people will pick your phone. People will be there for you.
Credibility, one of the most
Yeah.
important.
Yes.
During your time engaging with endurance sports, cycling became a
Yeah.
yes. What was something you learned through that was or maybe a listening basis that you learned that you couldn't learn in an MBA?
Because MBAs are overrated, don't waste your money. I used to be in education. Just don't spend money on MBAs, okay? Disaster. Because it's old product, built in the 1960s for people in factories. Today, if you want to learn finance marketing, please read a book or go out on the road and figure it out. Unless you really want this thing and you have some extra money. Really sad to see the types of people who are coming out of MBAs and say, what did you learn from the MBA? Group work. I said, you should have gone to like Sunday school or something, right? So, waste of money, yeah? But if you ask, my first biggest lesson on bicycle was when I was 12 years old. So my father was a government servant. His story I've told many times. He could just go and buy my bike. He had to manage it and gradually find some money and he bought me a bicycle from Colombo Cycle Bazaar where I love it. Nice BMX black bike. So you can ride a bike, right? Obviously.
Yes.
You remember the first day you learned to balance it?
Yes, I think my father pushing down to that.
Have you also fallen off a bike? You know, so I now was balancing the bike up. 5:30 p.m. in the lane, Mall. My father has gone for a walk and I want to show him my colors. I was riding, da on the ground, mother broken. Neighbors are also excited, what happened to this fellow? But because my father was coming, they let me, because it's anyway good. So my father walks down, I'm on the ground and he comes and looks at me and he says, okay, I'll see you very well. But I'm embarrassed to the bone, I can't cry also. And I somehow got up, dragged the bike, went home. They were not 12 years old. So night dinner and all that, he asked, and mother, how? What happened? I said, now I'm okay. So then he looks at me and says, in life, you will fall. I won't be there to lift you. So learn to stand up by yourself. How bad? So
Such a young age, 12 years old.
So I got my first lesson in resilience. I didn't even know what it meant. I know what resilience means now. I'm bouncing back. Sometimes when I fall, I don't even know I fell because I'm already up, right? And on the bike or business or anything. So I've learned some unconscious lessons very early in my life. And a bicycle has taught me a lot. Then of course we grew up and I used to be a corporate banker. I never cycled. But after I got back to the bike, I had a far more thinking mind and the bike. The cycle of life and the bicycle got me to think a lot. And when you ride for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 10 hours, 2 days ago I rode for 15 hours, like Colombo to Alla. Uh, it's therapeutic. It's like meditation. It helps me to think through a lot of new ideas, reflect on things. So it's basically changed me as a human being, 100%.
What do you say keeps you on the bicycle? Would it be discipline or would it be the fact that it's therapeutic, understandable, but then that also lasts for a few hours, right? Then would you say it was passion that kept you on the bicycle till now?
I'm not sure, but it's just that I am the bike like one. It completes me, right? It's just, I can't tell you one thing. I read on the bike, I listen to my music, I hydrate, I think, I commute, it gives you my workout. I'm not stuck in traffic. I can stop anywhere I want and speak to people I'll never ever meet if I was in a car. So if you ask me, it's just a way of life for me, which I can't imagine not having.
Then what happens to you being so dedicated into what you do? What happens to you when you lose the love for the passion you have? What do you do then?
I don't know if it happens. I'll have to see. If tomorrow my knee doesn't work, I won't be able to cycle. I will look at it at that point. But now, being a marketer, I also see the opportunity. So, cycle is obviously I look at this idea of cycling tourism.
So yes, Yasas, as you were saying, to cycle, that you and the cycle became one, and the passion for doing something like this, and I know you coach passion, if you were to lose the love you had for the passion you currently have, what would you do?
I don't know. I'm sure something will come up. I mean, if you take cycling out of my life, it'll be a fairly big one to digest. But I was, see, my corporate life, I loved my job. As a bank, I used to enjoy every bit of it. But at a point, I realized, this is not the thing for me. When I've come there, I was not really enjoying as much as I used to at a point, and that was at a point I said, hey, I would get to my new found passion of cycling and figure out a life change from a banker to bicycle. So it can happen to anyone, right? I mean, or you might find a new passion. Okay, you get good at something, and and you start falling in love with something else. So you'll have to let it come and see how it goes. So yeah.
So let's, when you were during your time as with each profession that you came through, when was it that you realized that selling is a very diverse stuff? Some people, they take it as long as hours, some people explain within minutes. Selling, when did you realize it was not about the product but it was about human psychology?
Well, I don't know whether I've thought it on those lines. I got into sales because I was part of the first sales team in the banking industry. So I was thrown an opportunity. I was a bank clerk working at HSBC Talavatta.
Not counting cash. And then the bank said, we are going to set up a sales team. No one want to take it. Only one of my friends, two of them by that time has taken the plunge. Unknown. Because nobody wants to be like a salesman, right? So that was a call I took. So I didn't go because I really knew what it's going to entail. But sometimes in life you have to jump into things, leap of faith. So which I did. And then I realized, oh my God, everyone's selling. Either you're selling or somebody's buying. So selling is not just product, it's an idea, it's vision, and there's a lot of technicality into it. And if you can sell the concept, you'll be able to get more done in life. You're born, most people, with the ability to talk and listen. Then you learn the subject of communication, which we are doing now.
Yes.
If you just spoke off the cup, this conversation won't happen. So you're trained to be a good communicator. But the technicality of persuasion, influencing, selling and negotiation, I call it spin. So people who come from my sales training, they go through the spin program. sometimes we don't know. This is not the moment to sell. This is the moment to persuade. So sometimes if you want your boss to change something he's doing, you might have to start the persuasion process 6 months ahead to a level you are able to sell that idea. Sometimes the sale won't work. You are required to negotiate. Just like Trump did, right? He's playing the whole world right now. He just closing deal after deal, right? And if you saw what he did, only a guy who read the book Art of the Deal, which I read 20 years ago, knows what this man is doing. Some will think he's a mad guy. Maybe he is. But he's very technical in the subject of negotiation. So I learned this art of selling is like a life skill. Parents should have it. Most parents use telling. And a son or daughter do this. When telling doesn't work, parents yell. So I generally say people live between tell and yell. Study, study, study. Aren't you studying? Now you're like it. So there's a whole lot of that happening. They are not using persuasion. They are not using influence. Influencing is a very different subject. They are unable to figure out what's the time to sell an idea. And then when do you really negotiate? Hey, I do this. If so, can you do that? Come to a middle point. So I really understood. I invested 2 decades of my life studying it, coaching people. So today I run probably a fairly established sales coaching company, which I don't send any proposal out. I only take calls I get and decide which ones I should take. Because I've invested on that amazing skill of selling.
The fact that you devote a lot of time into helping others become successful, helping others win. And during that timeline of you helping one after another, keep winning in their life, what is something that you have to sacrifice to maintain that mission?
In my life, I don't have this word sacrifice. Anybody who thinks it's this meeting, if I'm saying, hey, I'm sacrificing a lot of things to be with here, come on. Everybody is then sacrificing a lot of things, right? So it's an unfair card to play. If being with me or you is a sacrifice, I suggest you walk out of this. So I don't bring that card in my life. It's a conscious call I have. I could have said no, but I'm here. Then I can't say I came here and I've sacrificed something. This goes to family life also. I've heard husbands, wives saying, I sacrificed so. Hey man, you took a call. You could have not been part of a deal. Now you can't say I said unless you were held on gunpoint. So it's not even an equation. If I decided to spend 10 minutes with you and I missed the bus because I can't say I took that decision. It's like a very failed mindset to call. It's a very negative mind. I'm not a big believer in it. Because if, let's say for example, if I had a plan to do something today, I would have planned it out. And if it's raining, I will think of another day or a way of doing what I plan to do. So I have no reason to look back and look at compromise and sacrifice. You are dealt a set of cards today, this moment you play. Some you win, some you lose. If you again get a set of cards tomorrow morning, you are able to play for your history. So in that moment, if you have to call back sacrifices, this, that, what I will say. So I can't, it's not in my vocabulary. I mean, sometimes I've invested so much, my son, daughter, and I've sacrificed, and now look what, hey, you decided to have this kid. You decided to invest your time. And now he became a drug addict. What do we do about this?
Very true.
What are we saying, man? You decided all of this stuff. Okay? If somebody forced you into something, I get it. I've never been.
That's a total different scenario.
That's a total different scenario. Then you are being compromised and not sacrificed. But there's always way outs of things you do. And okay, technically, sometimes people are not very good at saying no because it's very difficult. It's a different skill to say how to say no to your boss. That again is about how good are you in selling. So let's say you have a plan at 5 o'clock in the evening with your kids. Your boss says, hey, look here, we're having a meeting now. Now that's a moment. You got to either say, hey, Now, how do you handle that with your boss? You can either be furious and be upset, or you might be able to negotiate this. You might be able to sell him the idea. Why, if we do it this way, can we? Or you might be able to pursue it. A lot of people fall into compromising situations which ends up as a sacrifice because they are not good at communication and getting what they want. They're not good at persuasion. Then they get thrown into a corner. And that becomes a very negative moment. I got twisted. Yeah, but you never had the skill set. Not the bold confidence because I want to walk out of the job. No. How do I negotiate with the worst boss? That's a skill. How do I persuade him for 3-6 months so he will never disturb me on a Sunday? How do I become so good at my job that I am finishing things so well, as a result I can negotiate to leave me alone on a Sunday? It's skill, the first question you asked. So if you haven't done any development on your communication skills and your competence, then you might be sacrificing and compromising. Husbands, wives, the same.
Goes really personally as well. Like, people think it only applies to your boss or your employee,
Yeah.
but also applies to your kids, your spouse.
Yeah.
And the fact that persuasion, which most people mistake it for it to be like, can be done in 2 hours, 3 hours in a meeting.
Yeah.
No, it takes months, like
Yeah.
6 months,
Yeah.
as I said, right? To
Yeah.
persuade the worst boss, that's a skill. People
Yeah.
say no, but not risking anything with that no is a skill.
Yeah, and the skill. So if let's say a mother wants you to study a particular line, you want to go somewhere, you will get to telling, yelling. And it will be like who's the loudest. Obviously, your parent has more power. So you know your negotiables are low. So obviously, no kid is trained in the skill to be able to think like this, right? But if you are skilled, some point in your life, you will figure out a way to gradually persuade that dancing is not what you think. It might be sharing videos, taking them out to show. There are a lot of creative ways how you can persuade somebody over a period of time. To a point, you can sit down and say, hey, so this Bhatyan Santosh, classic case. Parents wanted them to finish their degree. They want to music. What did they do finally? One of the parents were adamant not. Another one was open. But the negotiation was, let us take 1 year to do the music. We will come back and finish the degree. So that was negotiated by Santosh and Bhav. That 1 year changed things so much, the parents said, do what you love. And here they are today. So, but if they didn't have the ability to negotiate that with their parents at that moment, they would have been probably working for a company and still doing well. But they had the skill because they were both prefects, they'd done exposed themselves, and they had capability of, at least Santosh I know personally from school, he had the skills, right, to be able to have that type of conversation. And the father was obviously a sportsman and all that. So I guess you get my point on.
Yes, I do. I really love your concept on
Spin to win.
spin to win.
Sell, persuade, influence, negotiate. Study the 4. You will get things that you never thought would land on you.
I would honestly love to get book recommendations from you regarding this.
That book I get to write first. That's my model. So spinner is also cycling. Ironically, spinner and spin are all connected, but I'm yet to put all to some. Yeah.
I however, if you could, you have spoken a lot about how MBA is a waste of money, as you said.
As of now,
As of right now. And you structured on why you believe that is what it is, and that was your POV. Yes. Now, if you could redesign Sri Lanka's education system with one principle that you learned from sales and sports, what would it be?
I mean, it's a very serious question, right? Sri Lankan education system, we've, for lack of a better word, raped it for 3 decades. As a result, we are getting kids who are unable to make the most of what the world is throwing at us, right? Being in a country with sunshine, in the most strategic location, you throw anything on the ground, plants come out of it and fruits come out of it. Right? This is a desert land apart from some of the political nonsense we have. So we messed this up. So my father comes from education planning background. So since I've known in my young age, we were always speaking about education reform. And the country is really failed. At least now we are trying to look at it. So fundamentally, there's nothing called education. It's called educable. It's a continuous learning process. We built a school because parents didn't have the knowledge 100 years ago to skill a kid. And we built a factory model to 8:30 open factory. And you go into different components. Maths, whether you like maths or not. Science, kid wants to go and do art, but no science class. So if you really look at it, it's Henry Ford's assembly line model was replicated for the convenience of the school, not for the kids' learning. But the world changed in the 70s, 80s in Finland, other countries. They created learning atmospheres rather than structured curriculum. So that fundamental change, we're behind for 30 years. So let's say there's a set of kids and there's a window open and there's wind gushing in and that room is full of clay. What do the kids do? They'll keep playing with the clay. And if the window is banging on because of the wind, what will we do?
I mean, I asked me as my,
Yeah.
if I was a kid.
Yeah, there's ample clay in the room. That's all you have. And there is a leaking window or a banging window, what would you do?
Well, if the window, hypothetically, if the clay was the reason to fix the windows from banging too much, I would use the clay to stop it from. Like if there's a leak, I'll block it from.
That's how the educational system has to change. Where problem solving happens from what you're exposed to, not by teaching somebody mathematics because it's 8:30. Who's ready to play with clay? So it's exposure-based education, not education and then telling you go and figure out something to do with this job. It's fundamentalist. The maths teacher is now in your palm. Why do you have to learn maths? It's like watching news at 8 o'clock. Then you have YouTube. So we are stuck in that model and making all excuses to keep the old model going because the change model is inconvenient. So in my case, both my kids who are 16, they only did up to O levels because they had to do it still because the system needed some certification to go forward. But my elder son right now is doing internships. He's doing videos for what I do. Volunteered for swimming coaching in school. Follows me to my office and does some work. Surely should be in the gym right now. And I'm sure he's learned so much. And I think now he's landed internship, which he will do.
Maybe.
I let him figure it out. It's just that our job as the educators is to expose you to microchips, clay, wood. But if you only show them Kurumbatti, they'll make Kurumbatti machines. So education is educability. I got exposed to cycles. I started studying cycling at the age of 35. I didn't have to do it when I was 18. At the right time, I picked it up. So that's the potential of educability, not education. It's not a full stop. It's a lifelong learning, and today you have everything AI to support you. So school system has to become play, exposure, facilitators, waiting to be called for it. Now the kids say, I got clay, but this clay doesn't work. Tara, can you help me to figure out? That's what your role is. No more teachers, right? It's facilitated. So this model is not new. It's world has figured it out. We Sri Lanka has massive change to be done, and very much excited because first time from a policy point, education is at the top of the priority list. 2026, the first reforms will come. So we're waiting from a national point of view to see some good results. Otherwise, we lose the next decade also.
So you speak a lot about wisdom, educability.
Educable. My father taught that word. Hashtag educable.
Sort of full circle, the process of learning lifelong.
How many things have you learned? You didn't learn
Something just now.
Yeah. I mean, all of this stuff. You didn't learn, right? You just figured out. Every day you're learning, and you'll do a better interview, all that. So your educability. Well, of course, you'll be able to sit in one place, take out a digital disturbance out, spend an hour. Those are parts of educability. Read and write. Of course, English, because that's where most of the knowledge is. Have internet access, good Wi-Fi connection, fundamental. Apart from that, any day, anytime, okay, I got interest in boxing right now. Let me start boxing. That's the decision you can take. You want to go to a class or a teacher or stay in a queue. So this is a truth, right? That's why all these Harvards, all these are losing. They're losing interest. No one's going for 4 years to figure out what is management. That's dead. That's dead. So
Basically, what it is there's more in-depth in learning by figuring out things yourself because it's more authentic and raw than under a textbook.
yes, but the knowledge base that was stuck in somebody's head. දිසාපාමොක් කියනවනේ ඉස්සර යනවානේ අපි දිසාපාමොක් ගාවනේ දැනුම තියෙන්නේ. The knowledge is with the teacher. But the teacher is online. So why are you okay? But you still need a facilitator, you still need a coach, a mentor,
Guide.
somebody to guide you in a particular direction, and you will build it from there. As long as you have data and battery.
Data and
Battery. And ability to focus. That's going to be the number one commodity.
We will absorb knowledge.
No, stay in one bloody place and not look at the Instagram and not look at the WhatsApp interruptions, which I train on a bicycle. So if you put me into a game, I can sit in one place for 24 hours. So careful if you come to a battle with me, you will get hungry, you will fall asleep. I can stay. This is luxury. You ask, what do I train on a bike? So if
What do you train about?
I can endure and focus for 24 hours on a bike. What did people learn from Lord Buddha? What's the point of the boat tree? People worship it for a lot of reasons. What is his point? The point I took. He sat under that tree and said, I won't get up until I figure this out. That's the message. You and I won't get up off this seat until we finish this interview proper. Correct? If the take doesn't work, we'll do a retake. If the battery fails, we will finish this. None of us will leave this. That's why this podcast will come up. Now, you got if half of the people you know can sit like that and get shit done, that's called focus. So that lesson was taught by the religion. We go around worshipping everything, not learning the lesson what the tree is supposed to mean. The boat, it has a lot of other reasons people worship it. But it taught the fundamental lessons.
Like that he did not leave that, he figured it out.
And then he got up and he apparently spent another period of time respecting it for what it did. But all of that teaches you the subject of focus. Now at that time there was no 7 social media apps that was bothering him. But he was bothered by Tanna, Rati, Raga, all that types of thoughts he was fighting. He'll have to fight with Instagram, friends chatting. Every damn fellow trying to call you to see what happens. Girlfriends trying to bother people. Boyfriends trying to ask, where are you now? Are you coming home? So, our world, we need to be ultra focused to be able to get the hour of work properly. So, imagine 30% of people around us just get that type of work done.
So, I have a question to you. You said, now ultra for this out of the usual questionnaire, but for you, for someone like you to have that hyper focus, and you come here, obviously, what your generation now, we have social media is ample. Every time you get a ding on your phone with something, maybe it's someone requests something from you or someone who you know. When you need to focus, what's something you do? Where do you go? Do you go to solitude, or do you have your room where you're alone, you won't have any disturbance, and you focus life for an hour?
No. For fundamental, I mean, my cycle is a good example. If you look at it, so much happening around me on the bike. Buses are going, 3-wheelers are going, dogs are jumping. Actually, it's chaos. I mean, You need to be able to focus in chaos if you want to really win. Otherwise, you'll keep running into solitude to find answers for everything. I mean, no solitude will last forever. There'll be a rain or a tsunami too. So that's not the real game of focus. So the subject is mindfulness. If you're able to stay on your thoughts, you have to practice it actually. It's not easy. You know the M&M, right? The meditation and mindfulness piece.
How long is it took you to get there?
When you understand mindfulness is the game.
Mindfulness.
Yeah, mindfulness is about right now staying in this game. Now I am not getting any other thoughts in my game. I'm engrossed. So you're also the same, right? Now you're not getting I left my clothes.
Here.
You are here, right? So that is something you practice. So when I'm on my bike, I do get those thoughts. Just by following that thought, you know, oh, I got distracted. So this is a fundamental. Just follow your thought and you get good. And you keep coming back. And doesn't mean you get aware of total focus. But you are better at knowing distraction. And knowing distraction helps you to automatically come back to the thoughts, right? So,
Mindfulness.
yeah, we are a bit overhung on meditation. Just like we are overhung on exercise.
Overhang.
Yeah.
It's like exercise.
No, my point is, a lot of people are guilty that I couldn't exercise today. But you can be active the whole day.
Yes.
Okay?
There's a significant line there.
Yeah. So, for example, if you walk, if you refuse to sit, there are so many ways you can be active. As a result, you will achieve a lot more than an hour of exercise, which is also good. But sometimes you don't have the freedom to be able to exercise on a routine. Just like that, you will not have time to sit down and do Anapanasati Bhavana in spite of being a 22-year-old trying to hustle through. But you can, this mindfulness repeated during the day, you will practice mindfulness. So, natural lifestyle of that would help you to get there.
What is a belief, Yasas, as an entrepreneur now? What's a belief you had like years and maybe decades ago about entrepreneurship that right now you are in disbelief of it? You're like, this is not true.
Well, first of all, unbelievable, right? People have no clue what entrepreneurship is. Now I'm convinced because I work for the government. Everybody who can spell entrepreneurship use that as a fancy word. The Bagas call it small business. When I'm we have really got confused with enterprises and entrepreneurship. Just because somebody starts a business, we call them entrepreneur. So we are trying to now get a proper definition of who is an entrepreneur. So that's the biggest fact, that we have a confusion between business, traders, and entrepreneurs. So entrepreneur is somebody with a vision, who is a problem solver. And obviously when you are trying to do something new and different, inherently a risk taker. Everybody else is doing business, which is fine. We need a lot of business people. But few will build a barista cafe chain. That's entrepreneurship. So the confusion that is there has to be clear. Otherwise, we would not know what medicine to give who. We are giving the same medicine that has to be given to businesses to entrepreneurs.
Very interesting.
We are giving what support entrepreneurs need to business. You can't also be an entrepreneur all your life. You can't be from after you solve the problem and you got a business, you have to become an enterprise. Then you have to optimize it, productivity, profitability. So we haven't realized that entrepreneurship is a journey, is a moment in your journey. Maybe at the start, maybe at the midpoint, and then you don't have to be an entrepreneur all your life because you can't be problem solving and risk taking. At a point, it becomes a business and Facebook will run. So we are confused. We haven't, just like we don't understand the difference between management and leadership, sales and marketing, salt and pepper. We are not really reflectively understanding everybody does not have to be an entrepreneur. lot of people can start a business. But the country needs more entrepreneurs. That is fair. So that realization is helping us to figure out policy, even at the government. What does really each one of these need? What support would each one need? What is a startup? People don't know the difference between a startup and entrepreneur. Not that you need to know the definitions. But if we don't understand that, we would not know how to support them, how to work. Second thing is entrepreneurship is overrated. The owners, they need solid employees. I was first of all a fantastic employee. Punctual, present, prepared, the 3 P's I told you. And I took my job from the bottom up. I did more than what I was asked to do. I learned more than what I was done. I used to take HSBC Global Annual Report as a clerk in a bus and ready. So you are not that. You come into the business world, be crushed like a bug. Okay. So way overrated. A country that hasn't seen a culture of proper work ethic, trying to build entrepreneurship because they want to be their own boss. They can't be how they build that country through work ethic. Hard work. They did some analytical stuff with the Indians, but they build that out of nothing. On that hard work, they build smarter work, and entrepreneurship emerged out. Look how hard the president works. His work ethic, the guy wakes up, he's almost 80 years. The energy brings in, the level of detail they go into. I mean, he's leading right at that level. Right? And look at the guys like Elon Musk, look at the type of people who are setting the example. So, entrepreneurship is a fancy fun word, but we have to really code it and know where its role is. Employment. I think Dinupa did a super video recently on a podcast because he's a successful CEO and he's proud about it. And I'm proud of the fact that he comes out and says, be an employee, how much of work he's brought into this amazing story of a coffee chain industry. And if you imagine he comes and becomes an entrepreneur someday. Yeah, so that's just my take on this whole Alice in Wonderland entrepreneurship versus what exactly it means and how do we put a finger on it?
I remember clearly how Dilupa properly says how, and he once said in one of his workshop classes where he was like, we do not need entrepreneurs, we need discipline. And
I'll agree with you.
Aligns exactly what you're saying.
Absolutely.
But my question still remains a personal question more. If someone was to walk down that route of, all right, I'm going to start my own company, I see the gap in the market, right? What is it calling to? I'm self-employed, or am I a startup, or am I?
I always say forget the definition. As you correct, you started the right place. I see opportunity, okay? But opportunity means nothing. We all see opportunity, right? If you are not competent to match
The level of
the opportunity that is available, right? So that's the core. So you are willing to put the work needed, as I said, the competency, the connection, build the cash, build the credibility, build the creditworthiness. All of that together will give you the ability to take that action. So I learned cycling. I studied biomechanics of cycling. I went to France and saw how the Tour de France works. And I ripped every single corner of this country on a bike. And I saw the opportunity of tourism. Then I saw the opportunity of cycling tourism. In that, I see the opportunity of race vacation. How do you do a race and take a vacation? So if I did not know how to ride a bike, if I did not know the latest trends, if I also don't own a bicycle mechanical center which I built out of my interest, which is still running, I would not be able to take that opportunity. So a lot of young or whoever starts to see, oh, that's opportunity, needs to have what it takes to build the rest of it. So there are guys say, I have a plan for a cafe. Good. Can you cook? No. I'm the business guy. Okay. Not a good idea. Somebody should learn to cook. Somebody should know this stuff.
Just like either you are incapable of delegating it to someone who can, or you should be able to do it yourself.
That's my view. If small business starts with, okay, if you come and say, I have a more idea for different types of photographs and I'm going to do photography, it's going to be like Canada. So at some point, say, can you actually, if Ty comes and says, Yasas, I've got this new idea, you say, okay, begin. Right? Yeah. But after 20 years of his life, he can invest and do whatever. But the starting game, you have to be good at something in the process. Right? So either you are inspired by something and then get good at it, or you get good at it and you find the opportunity. But we are not really harping on being good at it. That was the easy part. ChatGPT, I just did 10 minutes of research. I think I saw how it does. Now I have a more idea. I have a start. I am in this conference of pitching. Right. Parents' money must. Parents. The guy has a house to live. So he can tomorrow say, no, I changed my mind, now I'm back at it. Okay. So that has to change. So get good at it. Get good at it.
There was, and I know, and as we come to the end of this
Right.
episode, there has obviously been a moment in your lifetime where, as a young adult in your 20s, where you were just figuring out the risk of life, you got lost, or you might have been wondering where do I go from here. If there's any advice to give to the younger generation who are coming up through that same lane, what would you tell them?
I don't know, young and old, wake up before 5 o'clock if you want to play this. Because by 6 o'clock, the roads are busy, people are up, your phone's ringing. So first 1 hour of your day, you got to sharpen some skill. Without that, God bless you. Everything else, Maga, starts after that. Market opens up. I can give all fancy advice, but it starts by getting up in the morning. How do you get up and what do you do in the first 1 hour? For who? For you. Start that. Rest, if you are in that game, can't go wrong.
Can't go wrong.
Can't go wrong. Something's going to come your way. A, because you're early. What did it say? Early birds catches a worm. Human every early. They don't get ahead of them. What could we say? They look fancy because the guy who wakes up, anyway wakes up with a smartphone that connects you to any damn resource in the world. If you have LinkedIn that you can reach out to God 2 levels below anybody close to it. So your opportunity to play is limitless, regardless whether you are from Ambantata or from Hamburg. What's stopping you, man? Stopping you is the fact that you just don't have the fundamental of how do you use the 24 hours which you and I have both dished out a million of. That's it. Everything else, I mean, on your bad day something can go wrong, but that's my advice.
Aside from that, getting up early and sharpening your skill, sharpening some sort, will lead you to something. And can't hear that from anyone else, but Yasas Hewage, thank you very much for being with us today.